Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this episode of Nadiya Shah Productions. I am your host, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. I feel so lucky today. A.T. Mann is the author of over 20 books, or co-author, and his latest book, The Sacred Language of Trees, comes out June 2012. I'm so grateful that you are here to celebrate with me one of the big dogs of astrology, one of the most respected people in astrology, A.T. Mann. A.T., welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
So, The Sacred Language of Trees. Tell us about that.
Instead of looking at nature as being a resource to be exploited, this book is really trying to return a sense of the value and the sacred to the natural landscape around us.
And as an astrologer, it must be fascinating that we look at the sky as sacred. So of course the earth would be sacred as well and everything it contains.
I hope it will be read by the astrological community because they will see the connections in it all over the place. In the very earliest cults that preceded any of the religions, women were considered to be tree goddesses. A lot of the earliest gods and goddesses were, in fact, male gods tended to be very abstract and in heaven. The goddesses were embodied in the earth.
That's fascinating.
So their images from 1500, 2000, 2,500 years ago in Egypt of tree goddesses that are women whose fingers and hair are the branches of trees. And their feet are embedded in the ground, and so they're connecting heaven and earth. Like early Judaism in the Middle East, there was a goddess called Asherah, and she was a tree goddess. And she's often symbolized by a tree called an acacia tree that exists in India, in Pakistan, in Iran, Iraq, the Middle East, along the north coast of the Mediterranean, and so on. So Asherah was actually, in Canaanite history, she was married to Yahweh, who was the Jehovah, the main god of Israel eventually, and the Hebrews. She was married to him, so the working title for this book, when I first began it, was Mrs. God. Because when Abraham created Judaism, essentially they allowed men in the temple but not women. So the women worshipped in trees, groves of trees, because the temple was a tent essentially pitched nearby. So the men often got very jealous of this, which is what the Old Testament is about, and they cut the trees down. So the women used the tree stumps as altars. And so it's a belief that exists in many abstract ways, like the menorah, which is a kind of candle holder, in Judaism, is a tree. It's actually a symbol of the early tree goddess that survived into the patriarchal era. So at a certain point, the tree goddess was written out of the Bible. So this is true of all of the religions.
And did they mostly symbolize fertility? Or?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's incredible. Even though the religion of the people has changed, they find a way to continue honoring the trees as well, these goddesses as well.
It's called the Sacred Language of Trees because I say, instead of just looking at a tree and saying, oh, that's very beautiful, go up to it and hold it. And shut your eyes and ask it to pass on some wisdom to you. There are trees around that were here 1,000 years ago. There are trees that were around when Muhammad was alive. There are trees in the Middle East that were there when Christ was alive. There are trees that are alive when Moses was alive. There are trees that existed when ancient Egyptian pharaohs were around.
That's incredible. It's incredible.
So these trees are alive like this, except they live a very long life. So they contain a wisdom and they contain a knowledge. We just don't realize it, so we don't even ask.
Thank you so much for being here,
You're welcome.
Mr. Mann.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much for being here to celebrate A.T. Mann with me. Until we connect again, take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Astrology's biggest stars are right here. Nadiya Shah Productions, new episodes every Thursday.